Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our daily issue analysis, DIA, and welcome back to Elite Academy. So today again, we are going to discuss about very important topic from the current affairs. So let's start our discussion and hope you all are doing good. Yes, just keep revising. This is the time where you have to be in discipline. You have to be in the loop. Don't miss out this time. You can focus on improving your optional. You have to focus upon improving your GS1, 2, 3, 4, essay. So focus on all the aspects. Just don't keep preparing for prelims. Okay, till December, your focus should be only and only on mains. Okay, so let's start our discussion for the day. So today we are going to discuss about Arctic warming and why it was in news. It was in news on 17th of August. This article was there in the Hindu, the warming of Arctic Ocean and its impact on India. So here you will, if you can read, you will find that this study was done by Finnish Meteorological Institute researchers, and they have concluded that Arctic heating is four times faster than the rest of the planet. So this is a very important observation whenever you are analyzing this topic under GS1. So this is very important for GS1 geography portion where we read about key physical features and the changes which are happening. And also in GS3 we read about climate change. So from that perspective also this topic is very important. So don't simply write that Arctic is there is warming, Arctic is warming, or climate change is happening. So do write it, but substantiate it. So we have this study by Finnish Meteorological Institute researchers, and they are saying that Arctic heating is four times faster than the rest of the planet. So when you write the specific answers, then only you get value addition. Then only you add value to your answers, and accordingly you will be rewarded. Okay. Now, next observation is that why it is happening? It is happening because of most of the Eurasian part of the Arctic, where the Barents Sea of north of Russia and Norway, it is warming at an alarming rate. That is seven times faster than the global average. So this is why we are discussing it, and this is what is the observation which was given in the news. And also, time to time, IPCC report has also highlighted that how climate change is creating impact on the Arctic surface air temperature. So the IPCC report in 2019 they highlighted that the Arctic surface air temperature is increasing, and it has likely increased by more than double the global average over the last 2 decades. Double the global average over the last 2 decades. So if you write these, if you use these two data, in fact the three, we have a data of Barents Sea north of Russia and Norway, and of Arctic warming, and this IPCC report about the sea surface temperature, then you will get good points. Okay, so do note it down so that you can add, substantiate your answers with the help of this data. Now we will discuss it in detail. So whenever we are talking about the warming up, so this was in the article that this area north of Russia you can see and north of Norway, that is the area around Laptev Sea. So that is getting more and more warmer. So as you can see, the temperature difference scale is given on the bottom. So Greenland ice is feeling the heat of it, and Greenland is the second most largest ice sheet after Antarctica. So that's why it is worrisome. Okay. And now we will discuss it in detail. So whenever we are talking about Arctic warming, what is it actually? So we know that global warming is happening, and global warming is means the long-term heating of the Earth's surface. It is happening, and because of this Earth's surface or this global warming is happening because of the anthropogenic or the human activities. And since pre-industrial times, the overall temperature has increased. The planet's average temperature has increased by 1.1 degree Celsius. And that is what we are targeting in Paris deal, Glasgow, everywhere. Our INDC targets that we have to limit this target within 1.5 degree. Otherwise, it will be very dangerous for the country already. Now itself, it is dangerous. Just imagine if the overall global temperature increases by zero point 0.4 degrees Celsius, then what will happen? Okay. So we cannot afford it to reach till 2. No way. Okay. So global warming is happening, and we have seen that data is there to substantiate our point. So these changes we are witnessing because of this global warming. What is happening? Finally, the surface air temperature is increasing, and then the net radiation balance is tending to is producing large changes on the poles. So surface air temperature is changing, but the net radiation, what is happening? So as the part of circulation, the net radiation gets distributed through ocean currents. The net radiation gets distributed. So this net radiation balance is creating large changes at poles. And this phenomena is known as polar amplification. These changes are pronounced, they are more, they are being seen more in the northern latitude, and that's why we call it Arctic amplification. So are you understanding that how it is happening? What are the important keywords and the chain of reaction behind it? And like, are you able to trace it? So this is about Arctic warming. This is about Arctic amplification, which is happening. Now we should know the causes of Arctic amplification. We should know the causes of Arctic warming. Okay. Now let's analyze the causes of the Arctic warming. Why? What are the causes behind this? So we know definitely the global warming is there, but global warming driven causes are there for this amplification. So what are these? So they are ice albedo feedback. So we know that the ice has maximum albedo if we compare it with water or land. Albedo means reflecting back whatever sunlight is coming to the surface. The reflecting back of those sunlight back to the surface is called as albedo. So ice has highest albedo. Now, if this ice albedo feedback is getting disturbed, just imagine what will happen. So sea ice and snow, they have highest albedo, high albedo, which means they are capable of reflecting most of the solar radiation back to the atmosphere. Now, if the sea ice is melting, then there will be Arctic Ocean, means the water will be there. Then that Arctic Ocean, that water will be capable of absorbing the solar radiation rather than driving it back or sending it back. So this is creating, or this is leading to, since already active warming has started happening, so it is creating amplification, further more warming. Okay, and it has been observed in the study about which we started discussing, which was mentioned in the newspaper, that studies have shown that the ice albedo feedback are responsible for 40% of the polar amplification which is happening in Arctic. 40% role is there. Next is the lapse rate feedback. So we know what is lapse rate. So lapse rate is a rate at which, you must have read in your NCRT geography, that lapse rate is the rate at which temperature drops with elevation decreases. Temperature drops with elevation decreases with warming. Means with every successive elevation, if water droplets are moving up in the air, then the temperature will drop. Okay. And with every increase, so you are increasing in elevation but temperature is declining. But here what is happening, lapse rate feedback, because of global warming, that is not happening. With temperature drops, with elevation decreases with warming. So this temperature drop with elevation, it is not happening in the manner in which it should happen. It is decreasing with warming. Means stronger lapse rate क्या होता है, the rate of decrease of temperature with altitude gives greenhouse effect, and a warmer surface further adds fuel to that. So if the lapse rate changes systematically with the surface temperature, then then we are facing a strong lapse rate feedback, which is not good. Hope you understood this topic. Lapse rate, again I will repeat. Lapse rate is the rate at, means the rate of decrease of temperature with altitude. In altitude you are increasing, temperature is decreasing. But when the overall surface temperature is increasing or the area is becoming more warmer, then we feel this strong lapse rate feedback. Then the temperature decrease will not happen at, let's say earlier it was happening at 10 meter, now it will happen at 20 meters. Okay, so it gets disturbed. So it has been observed, according to this article, that the lab's rate feedback is causing 15% of polar amplification or Arctic amplification. So this is also important. Next is our water vapor feedback. So water vapor feedback, what is meaning of this? Changes in water vapor, they either amplify or weaken the temperature range. So we know that in summers there will be more water vapor, relative humidity. In winters there will be less water vapor and less humidity. But now if the surface temperature itself is increasing because of the warming condition, global warming, so this overall water feedback in a region will get disturbed. Now earlier, because of cold condition in Arctic, the more water vapors were not available, but now because of global warming, more water vapors are available. So because of this water vapor feedback, and if there is more water vapor in the moisture in the air, and if the air itself is warm, they will retain more heat, right? So this water vapor feedback itself is weakening the temperature range there. Next is ocean heat transport. What is the meaning of ocean heat transport? Ocean, basically what they do, they transport vast amount of heat around the planet. So let's say there is any ocean current on the equator, it will go to mid latitudes, then further it will go to higher latitudes. So this way the warm temperature, the warm ocean current is transporting the heat from the equator till higher altitudes, right? So this is very important. And now what is happening here, and the ocean is transporting vast amount of heats around the planet, which helps in regulating the regional climate. This we read whenever we read in NCRT, that what is the importance of the ocean currents. Now just imagine if warming is happening, then the overall heat transport will be further more heat will be transferred. So it is called as enhanced ocean heat transport is happening into the Arctic. So this is also linked to the stronger future Arctic warming and polar amplification. So that can also play very important role, and that is one of the important cause. And if we talk about economic development, that is also adding to the climate pressure. So we have seen that now strategically, Arctic area, it is a region which is becoming strategically important for metals, oil, gas, clean energy materials, then minerals and wind power. So it is becoming important for everything. And now the countries, they're growing, they are showing interest, be it the political and economic interest in the Arctic region. So because of this, more intensive industrial activities are happening, more transportation commutation is happening, and these are posing significant challenge to the Arctic ecosystem and for the indigenous community as well. So these are also adding to the, they are the also causes of the Arctic warming. Okay, so these are the reasons. Now just imagine if you are writing all these five dimensions in your answers, don't you think that your answer will look more organized, systematic, and more specific to the point, like technical and specific? Yes, you should write. Then only you can showcase that you have this knowledge of geography as a subject. Okay, so let's discuss the other aspects. Now we will analyze the effects of Arctic warming. What are the effects of this? So the first effect is disappearing of summer ice. So what happens? Already it has been found that the extent of sea ice in Arctic has started declining. So we have a data to support this. More than 43% since 1979, the sea ice has declined. Now, what will be the impact? Just imagine if one area is there and there is a lot of ice, thick ice is there. So they help in regulating the amount of sunlight which is entering in that area. They will reflect it because of the albedo effect. Now, if that ice is melting or if that ice is disappearing, the underlying below that, whatever ocean surface is there, that will get exposed to the sunlight. Then it will not reflect the sunlight back, it will rather absorb the sunlight. So it creates a vicious cycle. In Arctic region, this is what is happening. So less sea ice means more open ocean means more heat absorption and more climate change, and not just within the region but beyond, because ultimately circulation happens and it will affect everywhere, it will affect everyone. Okay, so this is disappearing summer sea ice. Hope you can explain it better now, and you can explain it in your words. You make use of the data in order to substantiate it. Next point, next effect is receding ice creates risk for marine species as well. So this is very true. If we talk about the bears, if we talk about the walls, so there is a study which has observed that by 2100 means 2100, we are in 2020, then by end of that polar bears could face starvation and reproductive failure even is possible in the far north of Canada because adaptability. If ice will melt, they will be not able to adapt into the new system, new setup. Even it has been observed that fishes are changing their range, while southern Arctic species such as Orcas, spelling is ORCAC, are pushing further north. So their area is decreasing, so they are not able to live in the warmer airs or warmer waters, right? So they are changing, they are pushing further north. So this is about the receding ice. It creates risk for marine species. Next is diminishing snow cover threatens Arctic wildlife. How it is? So most plants or animals, if we talk about in Arctic tundra region. So here about the first one we discussed about the marine species. Now we are talking about the tundra region, overall Arctic region. They depend upon the favorable snow condition to survive. For example, many require late lying snow cover to overwinter. Like herbivores, we have reindeer. They can't reach their food when hard ice layer replaces the soft snow pack because they run. You know. So as it happens during freeze, if ice is frozen, they can raw. The thaw cycles, that is when rain falls on the snow and freezes, it creates a layer of the ice that prevents animal from getting to their food, and that are becoming more and more frequent. If there is more light snowfall, soft snow is there, and ice layer is there, then that will create problem. Okay, so this is also happening, and not only that, because if the warming is also increasing, there have been incidences of rainfall which will affect the availability and accessibility of lichens for the reindeer, so they cannot feed. So this Arctic amplification is causing widespread starvation and death among the Arctic fauna. So receding ice creates risk for marine species as well, and the snow cover is threatening the other Arctic wildlife, be it the plant lichens and all, or the reindeer, polar bear we have already discussed. So this is the effect of it. Next is related to this race for Arctic resources. It is intensifying. How it is intensifying? See, now if shipping in Arctic is being promoted for more resources, so China's ship are also going there. So shipping in Arctic is on the rise as sea ice is receding. Now sea ice is receding. If the icebreakers also can go and more big ships they can go. So since sea ice is receding, the shipping in Arctic region is increasing. That is putting pressure on the Arctic area, Arctic ecosystem. More vessels means in more threat to the ecosystem and wildlife. And it has been observed that just imagine if heavy fuel oil spills happens, then what will happen? Or the oil spill, if it is not happening, then pollution in the air is happening. And also if some vehicle is going, underwater noise pollution is happening, and the remaining ice is it is breaking up because of the more activity. So all these things are creating problems. So these are the effects of Arctic warming, that since now the whole area is more open for the resources, or it is open for navigation, so countries are utilizing it, but they are not understanding the impact of it. Next one, rising sea levels. So yes, we have observed that since Arctic glaciers and caps, they are melting, and they represent only 25% of world's land ice area. Now, the melt water from these sources, if it is coming, it will go and it will meet the oceans only. So that will contribute to the rise of sea level. And already I have told you that the Greenland ice sheet is world's second largest repository of fresh water. Okay, and this ice sheet holds the second largest amount of ice after Antarctica. Okay, so in 2019, this data you can use to substantiate your point. In 2019, this was single the melting of ice from Arctic region. This was the single biggest cause of rise in sea level about 1.5 meters. Now just imagine if the sheet melts completely, the sea level would rise by 7 meters, which is capable of subsuming island countries and major coastal cities. So you have to substantiate your points like this, then it will make sense. Okay. So I hope these points are clear that how the ice sea is disappearing, how it is threat for the marine species, how it is threat for the other Arctic wildlife, flora and fauna, and the since ice is melting, there is race for Arctic resources, and it has its own impact and rising sea levels. Okay, so you would be in a better position to write. Now we will discuss certain other effects. Now let's analyze another set of effects. So that the sixth one is wildlife fires in Arctic region. It is increasing, and climate change is the major culprit behind this. Whatever wildfires we are witnessing in Arctic region. So the extreme forest and tundra wildfires which are being noticed in the Alaska and Siberia region, and they are increasing because the Arctic is warming up. Thus, it is leading to evacuation, loss of economic activity, and negative impact on the health. Next is related to thawing permafrost. So, permafrost basically it helps in plays a key role in storing the carbon. Now, just imagine if it gets exposed, if the permafrost is melting, then what will happen? So, it keeps the ground solid, it stops erosion, it supports infrastructure, and it also plays very important role as we have discussed about the role in the reindeer. Okay, and it prevents them from sinking into the wetland, especially during their spring migration. And also, lot of infrastructure, be it building, pipelines, airstrips, they have been built upon the permafrost. If it can, if it starts melting, if thawing is happening, then it will become unstable. And it has been expected that up to 50% of Arctic infrastructure could be at risk of damage by 2050. So by 2050, 50% of the infrastructure will be at risk. So this is another observation. Also, since the area is warming up and the ice is melting, so long dormant bacteria and the viruses which were trapped in the permafrost, they will be exposed and potentially they will give rise to disease. So this is one of the observation. But it has we can substantiate it with the help of example. So example is this: the permafrost thawing or the melting of the ice led to anthrax outbreak. Anthrax. What is the spelling? Anthrax. You must have come across this. Anthrax outbreak was there in Siberia in 2016, which nearly killed around 2 lakh reindeers. So 2 lakh reindeers succumbed to the pressure of or to the disease. This is anthrax. Okay, so this also is another dimension. So see, everywhere we are talking about dimension and we are adding some value through example or through data. Next is coastline erosion. So coastline in most of the Arctic area, they are facing highest rate of erosions on Earth at present time because of the in this high water temperature and longer ice-free seasons and this continuing thawing of the permafrost. And because of this, extreme events like storm-driven waves or the storm surges are increasing because now there is no buffer shoreline of ice. So this is creating problem. This is flooding communities, it is killing wetlands, and further it is accelerating the melting of the ice. Along with that, damage to properties, damage to coastline. I hope you are able to visualize this in your mind that how this coastline erosion is creating problem for the people, for the livelihood, for the cultural heritage, for the species, for the geography on the whole geophysical phenomena or the physical structure itself is changing. And the last one is related to the livelihood risk for the Arctic communities. So, this change in ice sea or the precipitation, snow cover, rising temperature, tundra, it is affecting the tundra productivity and the availability of the traditional food for the wildlife. So, the wildlife, if we talk about whales, if we talk about seabirds, seals, or caribou, 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 or even berries. So we are seeing the change in pattern. So tundra greening is happening, and this is changing the range of wildlife species, especially for the hunters. If we talk about, then hunters they are or the herders, reindeer herders, they are facing problem. They are facing problem of the fodder material. They are facing problem of the market and resources as well. So due to extreme snowfall and rain on snow events, they are creating problem of livelihood for these Arctic community. So with this, we have discussed the effects of Arctic warming. Now we should not stop here. Arctic warming is affecting a monsoon. So let's see how it is affecting. So there was a 2021 study. It highlighted that reduced sea ice in the Barents Kara Sea region can lead to extreme rainfall events in the latter half of the monsoon, that is somewhere in September and October. So reduced sea ice, where in the higher altitude in the Arctic region, it can lead to extreme rainfall events in the latter half of the monsoon. So this is the study, and why this is happening? Since ice is melting, there is more water vapor, so it is changing the atmospheric circulation. Warm temperatures, in addition to the changing atmospheric circulation because of the sea ice melting in Arctic region, also we have seen the warm temperature in Arabian Sea is also responsible for this. So this enhanced moisture and moisture will be there in the atmosphere. So this derive the extreme rainfall events or extreme cyclonic events. Okay. Also in 2014, India has deployed an ARC to study the impact of changes in the Arctic Ocean on the tropical process, such as monsoon. So it is also being done. And we have World Meteorological Organization. So they presented a report in 2021 that sea level along the Indian coast is rising faster than the global average. So this has been observed, and this is one of the primary reason for this rise is the melting of sea ice in the polar region, especially we are talking of Arctic, right? So this is it with respect to the Arctic warming and how it is creating impact on Indian monsoon. Now let's discuss the way forward and then we can wind up. Now let's discuss the way forward. So way forward, the first point itself, we should be able to map a future for Arctic's ice. So there is a last ice area in the Arctic region where sea ice is projected to last the longest. This area could be critically important to species that depend upon the ice as well. So we need to map the future of the Arctic. We can do modeling, we can predict that what will be the future, at what rate it is declining. So we need to map such last ice areas there. We need to map such areas and we need to understand the gravity. Okay, so mapping is important of the future. Also, Arctic states who are there, they must take up the responsibility to chalk out the agenda that how to put a halt on this climate crisis. And there are 8 Arctic states who should take up the responsibility. And these 8 Arctic states, they account for 21% of global CO2 emission in 2019. They were responsible for it. 21% of CO2 emission. So just imagine if they take up this agenda of going for net zero carbon emission by 2050 or by 2030, reducing the emission, cutting down reduction in the current emission rate. So don't you think that it will affect when countries like India are the developing countries, we are so serious about our climate action. If they will be very serious, then it will not only help the Arctic region, but it will also help us also everywhere. Also, talk about switching to renewable energy, clean energy, definitely going on the Paris Agreement pathways. So if all these steps we take, or if we maintain the conservation and restoration of the wetlands, so the microclimate in will be better. The overall global warming will reduce. The overall greenhouse gases emission will reduce, and thus it will support the biodiversity. And overall, average global average temperature, which is increasing, it will slow down. So all these steps, we should write whatever you are writing in class is way forward for climate change, to avoid climate change. Those way forward you can use, right? In the last, you can use this line, this that Arctic amplification furthers the idea that what happens in Arctic does not remain in the Arctic and can substantially affect tropical processes far south, which we have discussed already, that is monsoon. Okay, so use these points, use these observations, dimensions, and examples. Don't miss out on examples and data that will add value. Okay, so hope it was good session. Hope you all enjoyed. You got the value addition point, and this is very important for GS1. This is very important from current affairs. Okay, so revise well. Don't miss on this revision aspect. Take care, guys. We'll meet tomorrow in another video.